You're listening to the Today's Eden podcast, episode 37. This is where the struggles are real, the callings are heavy, the kids are sticky. We come together because it takes a village, and this is your tribe. Hey guys, I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday so far, and I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen to this podcast of all podcasts that you could be listening to, that you're choosing this one to spend your time on, and I truly, truly appreciate that. I really want to say thank you to you guys for your support, your comments, your messages about, what happened to my family and I losing our baby. It's been hard and it's been awful, and it comes in waves of different emotions and different feelings, and we are just still continuing to navigate that. So I really, really appreciate you guys being my tribe, because honestly, you are my people. Whether you reached out to me on Facebook or Instagram or just messaged me or texted me, that was amazing. And man, just hearing your guys' stories about how many of you have struggled with the same issue, the same journey, it's just heartbreaking, but it's also very I don't know, there's something about having community when you go through something and knowing that you're not alone in it, and knowing that you're okay, like people have come out okay from it on the other side. It's just very powerful to not have to do these things alone. And with that being said, if you are in the Vegas area, or you were in Vegas, you live in Vegas, you have family or friends from Vegas, and man, just know that I am praying for you. I'm praying for your family. I am praying for the entire city, and just what the world has endured in the last few months has just been awful and hard and tough, and the loss has been unimaginable and hard. And just know that you are a part of this tribe, and I am thinking about you. And if you need anything, use the Facebook group, the Today's Eden Tribe Facebook group, to reach out to us. If you need to talk about something, if you need to let something off your chest, that's what it's there for. We want to be there for you. We are your tribe. Okay, so with that said, today's episode, I'm so excited to share with you guys, because it is with Randi Zinn, and she is super, super sweet, and I really enjoy talking to her and her discussing her book, Going Beyond Mom: How to Activate Your Mind, Body, and Business After Baby. So in this episode, you're going to hear a lot about obviously what's in her book, which is awesome, but also how we can rediscover ourselves outside of motherhood and not feel guilty about pursuing our passions or doing what really fuels us outside of being a mommy, because we know it's great, we love it, we wouldn't change it for the world. But also there's this point in motherhood where you kind of sometimes feel like you're getting lost in the shuffle, and you have this creative energy and you don't know what to do with it. And so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about strong-willed parenting. So if you have a strong-willed child, you will relate to Randi Zinn and I's little snippet on our, strong-willed babies. And it wouldn't be a true mom conversation without mentioning trampolines and their effect on your bladder after motherhood. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode with Randi Zinn. Let's get to it. Hey, Randi, thank you so much for being on the Today's Eden podcast. I am really excited that I got connected with you, and that we get to talk about this amazing book that's coming out. I'm really excited to dig into just all the things of what brought you to writing it, and maybe a little bit of background stories, but I'm super excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me. I can't wait to share all the stories.
Yeah. So before we get started and really go into this, I just want to let you tell the listeners kind of a little bit about yourself, maybe about your family, and kind of what life is like right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I consider myself probably like you and most of your listeners. I'm a mom of two. I'm juggling my work life, my passions, my marriage, my friends. I'm definitely in that mode.
Yeah.
So that's like the general story. A little more detail. I have a son who's 5.5, and he just started first grade today.
Aww.
And I have a daughter who's 19 months, and they're awesome. I love them to pieces. And obviously, like all of us, they've just taught me so much and really brought me to the next phase of who I am, for sure. So let's see. I have a husband who is also an entrepreneur. So we have a fiery, busy household, but we really have amazing conversation because we're both really living our passions and building things. And we live in New York City, so we are very much lovers of our city and what it has to offer, and the awesome people that live here and inspire us are, the reason why we're here.
Yeah, I have never been, but that is somewhere that I'm like, we have to go there. But then, of course, since I have no idea what it's like, I always think that, oh, like, let's do Christmas there or New Year's Eve. And then I'm like, it's probably the most crowded there. That's probably the worst time to go.
It is. I'll tell you what, Ashley, come to New York City, come either in the fall or the spring, call me and I'll give you the real tour.
Yes. See? Yeah, that's what I would love. Man, like, all the good spots that, that's just the way to go when you visit a new place is to get like the inside of a
Exactly.
city.
Exactly.
So you're about to come out with a book in September, going beyond mom. But when I was researching and looking into this, you actually started a website like a long time ago that was kind of based off the same thing. And so I wanted to ask you, like, what was it that made you start that website first?
Yeah, so it was honestly an evolution of really following my gut and really paying attention to where I felt there was a need. I was historically actually a yoga instructor. I've always been in the healing arts in some capacity. I've always been fascinated by kind of more of the depth of people, what's kind of underneath the surface.
Yeah.
And yeah, and frankly, I think things that happened to me in my life really brought me to a place of knowing that if I'm tapping into more of the depth of who I am, I'm going to be in a much better place. So when I became a mom, I decided to slow down on the yoga teaching. But what happened for me, and honestly, it was the beginning of me understanding what going beyond mom even means on a deeper level. I started realizing that my preconceived notions about what happened during motherhood was that my creativity would slow down. And honestly, the reverse happened. I started having all of these really interesting ideas around how to bring women together and how to create dialogue, how to create community. And part of that was because I was craving it myself.
Yeah.
I also realized that I didn't just want to talk about my kids. Now, my kids are awesome. I love them.
Yeah.
Conversations with, other moms were certainly useful when things came up that I wasn't familiar with. But I really wanted to talk about, honestly, myself and about the things that I was interested in with other women. And so I started to meet other women that wanted the same thing. And a lot of women who actually were kind of venturing into the entrepreneurial world, who were leaving the workforce, not because they didn't want to work anymore, but because they wanted to do things on their own terms and they wanted to have flexibility and they wanted to be with their kids, but they also really wanted to do their own thing. And that other final layer was that I noticed women started wanting to do something they were passionate about and to give back, to do something that they felt made a difference. And I started to see this depth that begins to happen when you enter motherhood. And I felt there was a real missing conversation and a real missing way for women to say, I'm a mom, but I am more. And I want to go beyond my mom's space. I want to include it, but I want to go forward. And so this is where I really kind of coined this phrase beyond mom. And I started hosting events. This is several years ago. So I started hosting events here in New York, and events of all kinds, networking events, wellness events, fitness events, you name it. I honestly was experimenting and exploring. And I started to see that women really loved it and they wanted these conversations and they wanted to network with each other because no one's going to help you more than another mom who's
Yeah.
also, putting it out there and gathering great resources. So the events really started to become popular. And simultaneously, I started the website because I felt like the events were the place for women to really connect with each other. And the website was the place to start sharing content and ways that this message can start going outside of the immediate circle that I was creating. I've been doing that for a while. And then the book. I've always been a writer and I've always wanted to write something more lengthy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to see how much meat there was in this subject, and especially as I navigated my son's toddler years and then started to contemplate what it would mean to have another child, I just realized how incredibly imperative this support and this information was. And hence, the beginning of my book process was born.
And I think I read this on one of your posts on the website too, but that I feel like we have guilt around going beyond mom too. So even though we, we absolutely love being a mom and we love our children, and but then there's sometimes that pull of I want to do more, or like I want to do something outside of motherhood. I want to contribute to, this or that. But then you have this guilt of, well, like this is such a beautiful blessing that, other moms don't get. And so you like go back and forth with this guilt of I want to, but maybe I shouldn't, or I want to, but maybe I can't. And how did you overcome that and into like this area of, no, I can like do this and be more?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good question. I don't know if the word is overcome because overcome means that it no longer is part of your issue.
That's true.
So I would say that I have a better relationship to the conundrum. And I'll talk about how I think I've done that and how I think others could do that. And by the way, these are all really important nuggets that are completely exposed and dove in this book in Going Beyond Mom. So I'm going to give tidbits here, and hopefully when you read the book, you'll get even more.
Yeah.
So guilt is the toughie of the modern day mom for sure. And, one of the things that I've realized, and by the way, I also hold retreats, yoga and wellness retreats for moms. And the beauty of that experience is that I get to have full days with moms of all types, working moms, entrepreneurial moms, stay-at-home moms. The universal thread of all of these women is that everyone is guilty. Everyone. So you might think like, oh, working moms are the ones that feel most guilty. No, that's actually not true. They're just as guilty as everyone else, and everyone is just as guilty as them. Yeah. So what does that say? That says that guilt is part of our culture. It doesn't mean that it pertains to one woman or another. So part of my Beyond Mom mission is to really, really change this dialogue and to really shift this guilt we lay on ourselves. So why? Why is this guilt there? Well, we're told in our culture that we can and should have it all, right?
Yeah.
We should be really, really amazing, perfect women. We should be incredible mothers, and we should raise pretty amazing, perfect children. And we should work, be productive, do all these things. Yeah. This is impossible. This desire for perfection is actually what is creating guilt, and because we're always failing at something. So this is a very painful space to live in. And I mean, I hold spaces with women who cry underneath that burden, and it really breaks my heart. So where does the shift happen? So to me, I think it really, really first and foremost boils down to a deep self-love, right? Because if you are able to step into your life and say, I love myself so much and believe in what I have to give this world so much, you step into what you do with a mission and with a sense of purpose. And you're less kind of wishy washy. And I think that so often we're looking outside for the answers. But if we're really spending time connecting inside with what fuels us and what brings us joy, then we're coming from a place that's rooted and grounded. So in the book, I provide these sorts of concepts and tools. How do I even begin to do that? How do I even spend time focusing on what I feel and what I need? And I utilize practices that are, not created by me, but they are things that have made huge impacts upon me. Practices in mindfulness, practices in using your body to actually be present in the moment. So you're actually feeling what your own truth is.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. The second part is that we have to sort of extricate ourselves from something that I think has happened in the past few decades, which is this belief that if we're hovering upon our children all the time, that we're somehow going to create some perfect being. I really disagree. I really do. And if I create some kind of dialogue or backlash on that one, like, okay, I'm cool with that. I just think that if a woman is a mother who is also living her joy, whatever that means, if that means that you have a 1-hour walk to yourself every day that makes you feel peaceful, if you are staying at home with your children and you come home refreshed and present, awesome. If you do have a job that you go to and you are doing it to bring in, the financial well-being of your family, or you do it because you love it, but you do it and you do it with your whole self, great. If you're building a business because you really want to create this thing, awesome. The thing is that your children are watching. And if you are doing things with joy and purpose, your children are seeing what that means. So this to me is like they watch you thing.
Yeah.
And they see what you do. And I mean, just from my observation and my experiences, that, I think it's a wonderful thing for children to have the chance to have other adults and other influences in their life. On a basic level, I think it's a positive thing. But I also think that them observing you, you don't even realize how much they're observing. And when you realize it, it's special. Like my son the other day, I said to him, I'm sorry I've been on my phone a lot today. I want to be with you. I just have all this work, and he just turned around and he's 5.5 years old. And he said, Mommy, I'm so proud of you. You work so hard. I'm so proud.
Aww.
And I'm just like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
he sees me working because he knows that something means this much to me, and so it's moments like that I take a deep breath and I say, I love what I do. I love what I'm trying to share with the world. And my kids are fueled by that passion. And it's when I really tune in with that place that I feel the alleviation of the guilt, because I'm allowed to be me.
Yeah.
And to me, this is the process of going beyond mom. It's not something that happens every single day or that I have just right. And am I doing it all every day? No, of course not. But I'm working through it and I'm being present and mindful. That's a huge theme in this book, how to be present and mindful so that, we're not crumbling under the guilt and we're actually enjoying this time. Like, how revolutionary is that?
Yeah.
That we actually get to enjoy this. Aren't we supposed to enjoy this?
Yeah, and I think that we also underestimate ourselves of what we can do, or like sometimes we kind of get in our own heads and we even though we feel the pull, like we tell ourselves that we can't, and we have that imposter syndrome going on in our minds of to do one thing at a time, or that if you do more, it'll be too much, or if you add on, it'll be too much, or or you can't do it good enough or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we're our own worst enemy, and it feels like we can never win. But I think I've discovered more and more through my own experience that if we slow down and we really give space and time to listen in, we know how we need to do things. We really do. We just don't always trust ourselves.
Also, I've seen a lot of moms, when their children are older and then they move off or they just need you less, then you're sometimes kind of at a loss of, wait, who am I? Like, who am I outside of being a mom now that my kids don't need me as much, or, they're not hanging off my body all the time anymore. Like, what do I do with myself? And I see a lot of moms that, when they haven't taken that time, and it's really hard. It's really hard to focus on yourself or take any time for self-care, when your kids are little. But then there's that consequence kind of when they get older, and then you're kind of at a loss of trying to start over to figure out who you are. And that's a hard place to be.
It is. It is. And, in the book, I really talk through that conundrum. And I really thought about what self-care means and what its impact is. And I really also thought about that women come from all different backgrounds with all different priorities, and of course have all different amounts of money in the bank. And I really tried to dig deep into what are the universals? What are the things that make the most impact with, the least effort? Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, it's the intention. It could honestly be almost anything. If you're able to take a day away with your girlfriends to do anything, oh my God. I mean, don't you come back just feeling like yourself again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, even like I've noticed just taking a moment to step away from my computer or whatever. And even though I want to get stuff done, or my to-do list is like a mile long, just stepping outside for me, like walking is good, or just to like get away from my computer.
Yeah, exactly. It's the little practices. And, of course, I live in New York City. The culture here, many, many people work hard and have long hours and have childcare. And I myself have a nanny. I'm hugely grateful to have another hand in raising my children and to be part of allowing me to build what I'm building and give me space. It's huge. I recognize not everyone has that. So what do you have? Mm-hmm. We all have breath in our body. We all have a body. We all have time. It's how are we using our breath, our body, our time? And I think with the right intentions and the right skill sets, which again are all the things that I'm really giving in this book, you're able to utilize these things in a way that can really, really shift your reality. And again, not only bring you to a place where you can be more productive, but a place where you just can feel more connected to yourself and happier.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really excited about that. And I think that those tangible, first off, I think it's just good that there is a book that tells you that it's okay to have these feelings, and you're not the only one, because there's so many struggles. And the reason why, one of the reasons why I created the podcast is because there are so many struggles that we all share, but we don't actually share them because we're afraid of being judged, or we're afraid of it being the wrong thing because we feel that guilt, or, mom life is just hard.
It sure is. It sure is. And I know our culture doesn't really provide that support. And it starts, with our body. Like I recently discovered that in France, they have programs that every single woman who gives birth receives a pelvic floor specialist to help them regain their strength. Like, whoa, okay, that's amazing. And
like if I can jump on a trampoline without peeing my pants, like
I can't believe you just said that because literally, I mean, I consider myself like okay, not like in bad pelvic floor shape, but my son had a trampoline at our home in the country,
Uh-huh.
where I grew up in the Hudson Valley. I don't. Where are you located, Ashley? I keep referring to like my demographic. I'm not sure where you are.
Yeah, no, I am actually in Texas. I am in the
Okay.
Dallas Fort Worth area.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm obviously a New Yorker, so I'm referring to stuff here in New York. But anyway, he has a giant trampoline and he's jumping on it, and I'm jumping, and I'm like, I could pee right now.
Yeah.
Like, this is,
Yeah.
whoa, okay, this is not good. Um, that's so funny.
Yeah, like
Mom,
the things that they don't tell you to expect when you're after you have a
yeah,
baby.
exactly. Okay, hashtag mom talk
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
But anyway, what the point is that, from the beginning we're sort of cast out into this realm, and like you're saying, no one tells you these things, and we're not given resources to rediscover our strength.
Mhm.
And in the book I really go through the layers of where we have to reestablish ourselves.
Mhm.
Our body is number one. I mean, if we're peeing ourselves and we're feeling, all over the place, I mean, we have to start with our body. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that we have to become, a weightlifting competitor or something. But what it does mean is that if we can not pee ourselves and we can feel like we have good energy in our bones and in our blood, we're going to be able to handle everything else more steadily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the body is definitely step one in my book.
Yeah, and I think that that is the first. I feel like because it's the most physical and like tangible thing that we experience after having a baby, just because visibly it's so apparent how much things have changed, and so like,
Yeah.
um, then after when you have a baby, like I can remember when after we had our first child, my like stomach was still like poochy and it was saggy and it was like gross, and I like had no idea that I mean, maybe that was naive of me, but I had no idea that I would like look like that post birth. And it was just, you just almost feel, and your boobs are like huge, and you just almost feel like your body isn't yours. And then, sometimes that brings like all those things like shame, and
Mm-hmm.
you just don't love your body as much as you did, and you just assume that like, oh my gosh, like we always, moms always joke about this. It's like, after you've had, so many kids, you're like, oh, my body's run down, and you just laugh. And but like most of the time, even though we joke about it, it really does affect us, like how we feel about ourselves. And um, the ways that our body has changed can affect the way that we feel about ourselves and our emotions internally as much as we feel like it looks externally.
Absolutely. And the whole mind body connection
Mm-hmm.
is real. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, our body looks and feels different. We start to feel shame.
Yeah.
We start to feel like, what's it even worth? And then we don't move our body, and then we feel more depressed. So, yeah, I mean, this is why I absolutely love, and I know goes on in most places around our country now, that there are stroller workouts
Mm-hmm.
and groups for new moms to meet and move and bring their babies along. And this is just the best thing that can happen in my mind in the first few months, because not only are you meeting other moms and you're getting out of the house, but you're moving your body. And you have to start there. Our feet have to be on the ground. And, trust me, anyone listening who has a little one, once your baby starts having tantrums, and it happens like in the street or in a supermarket, and you have to wrestle your child,
Yeah.
back into a safe situation, you will be like, oh yeah, I need to be strong. Like,
Yeah.
it's a survival thing as well.
Yeah.
But kids aside, I mean, it's interesting. I really relate to what you're saying. I mean, after my first child was born, I really was shocked by how much my body felt different.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, like I said, a yoga professional for a long time, and I felt like there's something else I need here, and yoga just isn't it. And I started becoming much more physically active, like more fitness and weight training and
Yeah.
all kinds of different things. And I discovered a strength in my body that I didn't know that I had.
Mm.
And it was really kind of joyful for me. And what happened from there, which goes back to this mind body connection, I started to open up to my mind's strength as well and to my creativity. I felt that there was a direct link between the strength of my body and the confidence I felt in the ideas that I had. And it was in that time that I started really creating Beyond Mom because I was feeling strong and energy and hormones and blood pumping from my brain to my body. And that's a beautiful space to be. And we all have that. We all have that ability to reach that place.
Yeah, that is really important to do, is to be able to kind of reconnect with yourself and also surprise yourself in what you're able to do, and to realize that most often than not you're stronger than you think you are. And yeah, I also wanted to ask you, what, like, personally, what do you do to help yourself, like, either reconnect with yourself or to battle that whole mind kind of guilt that you get, or just like stay connected with other moms? Like, because I know that a lot of listeners have a hard time in those three areas of being connected to themselves, keeping relationships, or staying connected to friends, keeping that energy up, or keeping themselves in tune with who they are outside of a mom.
Yeah. So I'll answer this in two ways. The first part of it is a little bit more like it's more of the internal work. So we'll start there.
Okay.
For me, the internal work has to do with breathing. And I wish I had more time for like formal meditation. But as we know, it's pretty busy, and it can be difficult to find like the time to sit and like really focus on a meditation practice.
Yeah.
But it is possible to find meditative spaces. And I try to do it in sweet, simple moments. Oftentimes when I'm putting my baby to bed and I'm holding her and I'm giving her her bottle and I'm smelling her beautiful hair, and just those moments that you can slow yourself down and take deep breaths. Sometimes I do it even like in the evening when my son just wants to watch a little TV, and I'll hug him and just feel myself present on the couch with him and try to slow down the to-dos. It can happen when I'm doing dishes or doing stuff around the house, or even, well, walking down the street in New York is not exactly calm.
A little bit different atmosphere.
Yes, slightly different atmosphere. However, the point is that we're able to bring ourselves into more mindful spaces. And when I think about the word mindfulness and what it means to connect us back to ourselves, I think about just not missing the moment. Like, doesn't it feel sometimes when you're a mom and you're busy and you have a million things going on, both personally and professionally, like your brain is in 50,000 places. And so very rarely are you actually where you are.
Yeah.
And I actually have realized recently that I don't like that feeling, even though I'm in it a lot. And so I'm doing myself a favor by pulling myself out of that space where I feel all over. And I'm bringing myself to the moment. And it's a choice. It's a choice to be like, I'm in this room. I've got my feet on the ground. Here is my breath. Here is the moment. Here's what I'm doing. Not what I did, not what I have to do. Here's what I'm doing. So that's like a more of an internal practice. And these are things that we can do all the time. And we also all know that taking, 3 deep breaths is huge, and it will help you bring yourself into the moment. Now, from a tangible standpoint, I think that it sounds so obvious, but one of the things that I've really owned when creating my book is that a lot of the things that I've discovered that work for me, I tend to not share them because I think they're obvious, but they're not. Like the thing is we all need to share our little tips because we all have different success stories and not everybody has had the same exposure to the same thing. So I am a big believer in being super, super organized. You know, a lot of time is lost when we don't, frankly, have our shit together.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's like, I am a big fan of lists, not because we necessarily obsess over them, but because you dump everything in one place and then you work through it.
Yeah.
I'm a really huge proponent of your calendar. Use your calendar right. And when you start to look at pockets of time as moments for self-care, like you have a 20-minute window, maybe save some of the housework you need to do for later and go take a walk. You know, go listen to a podcast that inspires you. Do something that you can be present and you can feel fueled. Calendar it in. Put it in. Put it in as like self-care time.
Yeah.
Put it in, you know, put in a workout twice a week that you commit to. It's in your calendar. So I do believe that a lot of the missed opportunities for self-care, self-love, dates with friends, oh yeah, that stuff is calendared. I have a few friends who literally are like my oxygen. And I sometimes would feel guilty that during a work day or during time I could work, or if my child is with our nanny, that I was meeting a friend for lunch, it almost made me feel guilty. Mm-hmm. There it is again, you know, guilty. Like I should be working if I'm not with my kids. But hold up, back up a second. If I'm a happy, whole person, I'm going to do everything better. My kids are going to like me so much more if I feel inspired and happy and present and I've had my friend time and I come in and I'm like, let's get on the floor and wrestle and have a dance party.
Yep.
So I think it's like, I think it's the first thing I said to you. It's like falling in love with you and really putting yourself first and watching how this does not make you a selfish person, but it makes you an incredibly better person. And everyone benefits from that, but mostly you benefit from it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to change the way that we look at it. Just like you said, how you were saying, you know, when you weren't working, but you felt like if you weren't with your child, you needed to be working. But the truth is, like, and I know my husband would agree, he would much rather me go out with my, you know, go out and do something for myself, meet a friend, if it meant, or like leave piles of laundry around the house, if it meant that I would, one, be in a better mood, you know, or two, it would help us have better intimacy together, or that I would, you know, feel happier myself, you know, with myself, or, and so I think that it's just kind of getting it, one, having a different perspective on it, and then two, like choosing to be okay with finding the time, and then also letting go of like the things that we kind of use to strive for that perfectionist thing, you know, like trying to be that super mom of I gotta have all the laundry done or everything folded or this cleaned or that, and like most of the time, like you can get away with it, like it can be there. Yeah. Like I would much rather have a pile of laundry sitting there than me be in like the worst mood ever, because not only do I feel it, but then my whole house feels it, and it sucks.
It does. It really does. You know, again, I have a baby. I have a 19-month-old, and I'm haven't left her. I've been with her every single day since she was born and every single night. And then I had an opportunity at the end of August to teach at this really amazing experience called Soul Camp. It's basically a summer camp for adults, except it's all like wellness and healing and just, it's like the best thing ever. And so they have them in different places. This one was in upstate New York, and it was a 5-day program. They allowed me to come for 2.5 days because, again, I have little kids. So I went for the 2.5 days, and it was so magical. I actually, as much as I missed my kids, I didn't want to leave, which was like actually a great feeling, like to be like, hey, wow, you know, I don't have to be there. Like I actually feel amazing being here. Um, but after 2.5 days, when I got home, I am not exaggerating when I tell you that I was a new mom and I was so happy to see them. I was so refreshed. I felt like anything they asked me to do, I would do, wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked myself so much better in relationship to them, in relationship to like my motherhood status. I was happy with myself. And I think we all know what it feels like when we're just a little burnt out and we don't even realize it. But it's like, ugh, it all starts to feel a little too burdensome.
Yeah. Or we do feel the burnout and we like have that again, that like guilt. And so we don't do anything and we feel like we still need to be there. And sometimes it's better if we just walk away, especially when you have a new baby. And especially if you
Yeah.
have a new baby and multiple children, then it's
Yeah.
like, and then, I mean, I feel it too, just in like the small things of that. I want to have adult conversations, and if I don't have an adult conversation, like I'm going to lose my mind. Like I need to talk to an
Yeah.
adult. I need to talk to somebody about something other than the bubble guppies or like
Yeah.
um, and so yeah, I think that's really important. What has been, or what throughout motherhood so far has been like maybe the toughest thing that you had to kind of like face, or that was just really insightful to you, that it like maybe you found beauty in the ashes kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that, isn't
Yeah,
there?
yeah,
I'm
there
like,
is.
huh,
Like, let
where
me
do
make
I
a list.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, Beauty in the Ashes. Well, let's see. My son is one of those super bright, creative, amazing spirits
Hmm.
who is also super tough. Like, one of those
Yeah.
where they say, oh my God, those are the ones that turn into the leaders. Okay, great, but I'm doing the dirty work
Yeah.
now. Wow. Um, so he has been a challenge, and I'm so wowed by him because he is so special and he puts me through a lot, like on a daily basis. Um, so I feel like I have seen my ugliest sides
Hmm.
in terms of dealing with him. I have seen like some kind of devil woman come out.
Yeah.
And like the sometimes when I look down at myself and I'm like, oh my God, like this is bad news.
Yeah.
And you're exhausted and you're screaming and your patience is done and you hate yourself in those moments. And what I have learned is that you must continue to forgive yourself and see your own humanity. No, again, no one's given a manual for this, and our children, just because they're little, they're here to teach us too. And so I think that I have developed more forgiveness. I try to develop more patience, though I don't know.
Yeah.
Patience isn't always my strongest suit. Um, and yeah, I think he is a great teacher of mine for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and my daughter, like, they say God only gives you what you can handle. She's just like easy. Like I'm so happy that
Yeah.
I'm like able, at least for now, maybe when she's a teenager, she'll be
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
Um, I also feel like, just the process of giving birth and everything that entails for every woman. I think whether it was one kind of birth or another, we always come away from it just being like, whoa, wow. Talk about like rising from the ashes. It's like so intense and so beautiful at the end.
Hmm.
And you have to go through a lot in the healing process. I mean, most of us we've learned a lot from all
Yeah.
of that.
I have a very strong-willed child too, and especially if you are very like she is type A and very specific. So if I say, like a simple sentence like clean your room, well, but like if earlier I said clean your room after, this or that, then she'll like remind me that
Yes.
specifically I said, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yes. Yes. I'm like, are you a professional negotiator? It's
Yes.
like everything is a discussion.
But I mean, it can only get better, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and the amazing thing about these little leaders is that they are incredibly connected to other people, and the level in which my son can have conversations with people, it amazes me. Like there's certain things that are so developed, and then there's these other parts that I think like they're trying to figure out their own little boundaries in the world.
Yeah.
And it's like our job to just keep steering them in that direction. But woo, it's hard.
Yeah. And you were talking about giving forgiveness to yourself. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably like the one thing that I've really learned is despite the fact that I might not ever fully be able to forgive myself for the days that I have, like lost my mind or that I handled something really awfully, that like I always ask them for forgiveness, and that it's like we're not striving for perfectionism here, but we're striving for like the just noticing that like, hey, I make mistakes. I'm going to try better next time, or that at least I'm aware of it and I don't pretend like it doesn't exist. And then they're like, what is going on with her?
That's really beautiful. And I'm glad you said that. I think that's so true. And I think that that statement that, I'm communicating, I'm, asking for forgiveness, I'm being my human self with my children. I actually think that that's key, not only to child rearing, but also to this whole idea of going beyond mom. It's like, if we're on this growth curve to try to become a happier, more productive, more present woman, it takes a lot of effort to communicate that with the people in our lives. And you can't do it alone. So you have to communicate it. It's like, I mean, with my kids, again, I use the example of my son being proud of me. I couldn't believe it. My 19-month-old picked up my book and said, "Mommy's book."
Oh.
Of course, my heart melted to the floor. But it's like they see, but I'm also sharing, even in moments I don't realize I'm sharing. Like, oh, mommy is going to do this. Mommy is going to record a podcast. Mommy is going to have an interview. Mommy is going to have a massage.
Yeah.
It's like I tell them because I want them to see that I'm taking care of me, because one day I want them to take care of themselves.
That's true.
So there's that. But there's also, I mean, I think communication with our partner is a huge part of what it means to also go beyond mom. Like you said before, your husband would probably choose the happy you over like the laundry done type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have to ask for that support. I think I've definitely guided a lot of women to just explain to their partners that there's something else that they need and they need help to get it. And normally if you approach someone with a need, like most people that love you will want to help you. And so you figure it out, you share it, you speak your mind. And, hands down to the moms that don't have the partner, that are the single moms, so much respect. You can also figure it out too. It's like you have to figure out where is your support team and ask your support team for help so that you can have your space. Yeah. So it's a journey that we can all take. But yes, I agree with you. Like honest communication is key.
Yeah. And also I think you made a good point about communicating with your spouse. If it's a transition thing to where like in the back of your mind, you thought, when you first had a baby, one day you would pursue, XYZ dream or whatever. But then now you're at this and and it wasn't really talked about or brought up that much. It was just like this kind of fantasy thing. And then, but if you're in the place of like, now you want to move on it or make it real, like assuming that they know is like the wrong thing. I mean, and just like telling them like, hey, I'm in this spot right now where I really feel this pull of wanting to do this, and like help me figure out how we can do this as a family if it makes sense. And maybe that even means like waiting, until like it's right for your family, but it's not like not doing it at all, but just waiting for the right moment or planning it out or something like that. And then also not being afraid to ask people for help, because we just understand so much about each other. We've all been through it in different ways, motherhood in different ways, to where, like, man, like, if you were just to say to a friend that you really wanted to pursue this or that, and if they could watch your kid for, sometimes it's easier for another mom to have another kid come and do a play date, because then it occupies their kid also. And so it gives them a free moment. And so you're actually helping them versus you think that you're like burdening them. Anyways, I don't know. That was a rant.
No, actually, you're actually hitting upon. In the book I do this too. I go through all these scenarios of like women that I've met, stories that I've interacted with, and it's a lot of this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, this woman wants to get back to a writing career and she needs time, and like, so she sits down with her husband and they talk about budgeting out X amount of money per month for a babysitter, come in for X amount of hours so she can start to write. And how long does she have? Like, it's a communication and it's a figuring out how to do it, but it doesn't happen unless you say what you want and say what you feel you need. And I agree with you, like utilizing our mom posse and community is huge. And you're right. Like, God, a kid swap, like mom 1 goes for a workout. Mom 2 goes for a massage, while the mom watches the kids. So yeah, we have to use our community.
Yeah, definitely. And I really like that. Those are my kind of books, when you don't just like tell me how to do it, but you give me like examples that, I can see myself in, and then kind of play out that same scenario in my own life. That's super helpful.
Yep. Yeah. This book is, I really, really intended to set into it to make it not some kind of fluffy, conceptual thing, but something that a busy mom who needs help can dig into and pull some tangible tools. So I believe that is what this is.
Okay. So first I just want to acknowledge you. I am super, I loved your website. I love everything that I've read so far about your book, and I am I'm excited for you to share this with women, and I think it's something that we definitely needed to hear. And I think it's one of those things that we kind of all silently like deal with, but we're afraid to say, because we almost feel like ungrateful because there are so many moms who can't be moms, and here we are like a mother, but yet we want to do something also. And so just kind of bringing to light that awkward space that some of us feel, but now we don't have to feel alone in. I think that is a really awesome thing that you're doing. And so, man, that's awesome that you were brave enough and you felt and followed the calling to do that.
Thank you so much. That really, really means a lot to me.
So before we end the interview, I wanted to ask you these last 3 questions.
Okay.
If you could choose like one of the most influential books that you've read, what would it be?
I'm a bookworm, so this is a hard one.
Okay.
But I've thought about this one, and I think a more recent super influential book for me was the book Love Warrior by Glennon Doyle.
I've seen that one and I always pass by it, and I've never
Oh my God. Don't pass it. You will. Just from this conversation, I'm going to tell you that you will love it.
So what is that book about?
Well, she's a pretty widely followed blogger originally. I think she's going into kind of some new spaces as well, just like with speaking and everything. But she's written a few books, and the one book before Love Warrior is more of a compilation of essays, which is also great. Love Warrior is a little bit more of like a longer narrative, and it's honestly about her reckoning with herself in relationship to the fact that her marriage is falling apart, as well as being a mom and a writer and all of these things. It is her dialogue going through these challenges, and it's so amazingly written and so powerful. I think like every woman should read it.
Yeah, just you describing that to me, it sounds like that would be the perfect like prequel to your book. I was just like,
they're really different, very, very different, but both very meaningful and empowering.
I mean, we need all the help we can get, so
we do.
At least I do.
Yep.
If you could empower women in one way, what would it be?
I would just really tell women to slow down and tune in because there's a lot of chatter and a lot of pressure on the outside, but the truth and the wisdom lives on the inside.
That needs to be a quote. Okay.
It's yours, Ashley. It's yours.
Okay, and then the last question is, if you could tell your younger self one thing, assuming that she would listen, what would it be?
I would tell her to really trust herself, like not to worry so much about disappointing other people, about not doing good enough, but to trust that everything I need, I've got it.
Those words like struck like in my mind of, wow, like most of the time it is about, we feel like we're disappointing somebody else, but like who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, it's funny because those of us, and I think many women fit into this category, but some more than others, we are pleasers and we want to make sure everyone is happy and comfortable. And then we're so shocked and disappointed when not everyone treats us that way. I'm a huge believer in compassion and treating everyone the way we would want to be treated. That's a, basic tenet of life. But at the end of the day, if we're living according to everyone else's rules, it's not going to go so well. And so I think if we're really trusting in who we are as a person, as a woman, things are going to come out in a way that's so much more meaningful because it's coming from who we really are. And just to let you know that the book is available on Amazon. So easy breezy, click away. It can be delivered to your door. But it's also going to be in a lot of bookstores and definitely Barnes and Noble. And if you want more information on the book, and we actually have a video trailer on it, which is pretty fun. That's on the Beyond Mom website. It's beyondmom.com.
Okay.
And I'm also like all over social media. So you can look up Beyond Mom. I'm at Randy Zinn on Instagram and Twitter. So join the fun and follow along.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you check out the show notes over at today'seden.com, and you can click on the podcast tab, and there you can find the show notes for all the recent episodes. Also, just know, again, I'm truly thankful for you guys, your community, and your encouragement and your support. Prayers go out to Vegas right now. Man, I just hope that if there is any kind of support that you need, that you're not afraid to ask for it. And I'll end this episode with this. I hope you know that you deserve it all. The best, the most honest, the most beautiful, and purest love in the world. Not only to be loved by others, but to be loved by yourself. So look in the mirror and think, yes, I'm exactly who I want to be. To speak up, to be proud of yourself, to be brave and open. You deserve the nicest, most caring people to walk into your life. You deserve it all, the whole world, and you should never forget that.